Hi there, I'm Linden Thorp, and this is Your Body is Your Business Plan, the Masterclass. And we're here every Wednesday for 13 weeks. So it's a 13-week cycle, and this is cycle 5. So we've really been cycle 6, I beg your pardon, cycle 6. We've been really running this for a long time, and usually we have lots of guests and so on. But we talk about embodiment. I'm an embodiment specialist, and we today have some great guests, and our topic is speech. And so I'm a non-verbal communications specialist, and I've channeled many other parts of my life and training into embodiment work, hoping to help people avoid burnout and many other things too, to balance up body, spirit and mind. So without more ado, I see 3 of our guests are here, so that's wonderful. Let's get started, and then I'll show you some slides, and we'll get talking. So this is the fun part. So first of all, Abby Sheila is here. Great to have you. Andy Barker is here. Delighted. And Steve Sharpley's here. Welcome. Great to have you. Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure who would come today, but it's great. Margaret Barry sends her apologies. She'd love to be here, but she's got another appointment, so she can't. So welcome. And today we're going to talk about speech. I think LinkedIn members and YouTube members really know Steve Sharpley, wonderful coach, boundless coach, very much in my way of seeing things, the boundless mind. It's wonderful. And Andy is a safety expert, and I'm sure he's a security expert too. I'm sure they go together somehow. And Abby Sheila is a self-love mentor. Wow, that gets changed every time we see you, my dear. You're evolving, I think. You're wonderful. Great. Okay, so first of all then, before we get started, let me just show you a few slides. I'm going to put up my slides and make you very small for a while, and just give you a little rundown of what this is all about. So basically I'm starting an embodied linguistics series, and this is part 1. So there'll be part 2, 3, 4. And this is a completely new field because I'm a linguistics person originally, and embodiment is rather an evolving field. So, this is really new territory in many ways. So the title of today is Speak from You, Not the Mask. We're really seeing that people are not being authentic, they are performing, and very often that leads to burnout, which is to be avoided at all costs. It's a terrible, terrible thing to burn out. Find our authentic self so that we can really communicate authentically and be ethically visible and so on, and not wear masks. And many people just tend to wear a mask for each occasion, and they have a script which they've maybe memorized and so on, but they're not being themselves. Another thing is that words, this may seem a bit of an earth-shaking thing to say to many people, but they're not reality. Words are symbols, abstract symbols at that, and that's why we have so many misunderstandings in the world, I think, and also because one of the reasons we are distracted from our true nature, because we're always dealing with abstract symbols, and images are also quite abstract in that we can interpret them in 8 billion different ways. There are 8 billion people on the planet, and each has a unique mind, And so we've got this extraordinary situation in which words are used, but in fact they're very abstract, and people start to use them wrongly or badly or inappropriately. That can also lead to burnout. We're constantly repeating the same script. So reality, what is reality? Well, reality is here and now. This is the key to so much, really. We are distracted by concepts. The past is a concept, the future is a concept, but we're distracted by them, and we eventually believe that they're real, and they're not. They are dreams. Some people would say they are delusions. So reality is right here and now with your breath. So words are not reality. Yes, and speech, just a few little points about speech. People think it's here on your lips, that's where it lives, and it comes out, and then bingo, But actually, there's a huge amount of stuff going on behind the scenes. Breath, for example, you cannot speak without breath. Without breath, we can't vibrate the vocal folds, and so the voice won't show. Presence, being, thought, lots of things going on behind speech. It begins long before words. And the intellectual mind, this mind is brilliant and so on, but it's constantly translating and interpreting. And very often, we don't realize this, but it does not originate. It's not very creative on its own. We'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. And if you're very causal or even casual with language, then the words can cost you. Words don't just describe reality, they shape the body that speaks them. So if we continue to say words like, "Oh, I'm hopeless," over and over again to ourselves, the body will interpret those words. The body is instructed by the words we think and we say. The hidden cost of language needs to be looked at closely. Responsibility without shame. Responsibility, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but it's response and ability. And so, the body takes responsibility. The intellect does not, mostly. And so we need to really get those words to synchronize with our bodies, with our spirits, before they will be received authentically outside and inside in some ways. Planning. Well, planning is an intellectual skill, but we can plan inside. We can use our desires. We can use our inner life. And planning, that kind of planning from inside, is state management, as we call it in NLP and in other forms of study related to language. So there are some language shifts we can identify here. Let me just make these a little bit bigger, a bit small. Just a moment. You can see that. From blame to ownership. So, for example, you hear many people saying, "Oh, you made me do this. You made me feel that." Well nigh impossible. But we can change that. We can shift to saying, "Oh, when I heard that, I noticed." We can really mitigate these words, which you hear so often. Another one, "They don't respect me." So we can say instead, perhaps, oh, my chest tightened and I felt dismissed. So instead of, blaming, pushing out into other people's lives, we can take those words inside and embody them and take responsibility. Okay. This is so important, the way we shift language. Demanding and changing it to requesting. You can say, oh, you need to stop doing that. That's another phrase I hear all the time. We could change that and we could say, would you be willing to blah, blah, blah. Now, it's not just being polite. It's just really embodying and taking responsibility for that language that we use. So, yeah, basically then, the bottom line is embodied speech does not soften the truth. It makes the truth speakable, we could say. Okay, but I'm going to be really interested to see what our guests think about this in a moment. There's a 30-second reset I teach people to do, and it's really simple. I'm sure my guests do it. I know Ebishila does. Before you're speaking, breathe. Feel, name something that is true for you about what you're talking about, and then speak. And the physiological fact about breath is that we will sound much more authentic if we speak after the out breath. So when we breathe in, people mostly breathe in and then speak. And of course, there is so much extra air, so much extra unfounded tone in that. It's far better to exhale before you speak, and you have a little pause at the end of the exhale, and then the voice is much more natural. Little known fact about breath. So the body hears everything: breathing, rhythm, pauses, muscular tone, congruence, presence, and yet we put it aside as if it doesn't matter, as if it's something that, is not crucial, because the intellect can dominate us so much. Silence too. I live in Japan, and here, when I first came to Japan, I had terrible trouble with silence because my students would be totally silent for more than just a second or two. And of course, I soon learned that there are cultural mores here, and silence is all about respect, and it's all about reading the air. And so now I really enjoy silence, and I've really learned about it by being here in Japan. And silence gives us that chance to reactivate language. So a nice pause can create space, and we can reset the body, and then we can speak. So language emerges very clearly from clarity, not a kind of compulsion to speak. I meet a lot of people who are on transmit all the time. They are just transmitting. They're not receiving anything, or very little. And this is part of our burnout problem that we're having. People switched on and they can't switch off. Last week I mentioned my hummingbird principle. I'd like to mention it again because it really pertains to speech very, very closely. The hummingbird is an amazing creature. It flaps its wings so quickly we can't see them moving. It has a long beak, so it just takes the nectar that it needs and disappears, and it's all very silent. So certainly in Buddhist beliefs, we need to live like hummingbirds. We need to disturb people as little as possible. And for me, this really starts with speech. So before I speak, I'm really sure that I'm not going to upset anybody, disturb anybody, and so on, knowingly anyway. And many people say to me, oh, Linden, you're always so neutral about everything. Yes, I am. I've had a lifetime of being neutral. And debating things I'm not really interested in that at all, because I don't believe it's very natural. It's very intellectual. And I just love that kind of exchange of ideas where we accept and we respect and so on and so forth. We'll see what you think about that in a moment. So what can you do today? Well, you can download today's guide, which is Embodied Linguistics Part 1. And if you contact me after this live session, I will gladly send over the PDF to you, and you can learn more about speech and speaking from yourself and not from your mask. Okay, super. Let's just get those out of the way. Right. So, welcome. Please switch on your microphones, everybody. You are free to speak whenever you like, and that will be lovely. Anybody want to speak? And Andy, would you like to speak or contribute or question or anything?
Sure. I'm obviously trying to relate to my own experiences as you're talking, and lots of stuff. I was at a conference last week, and boy, if you don't take a breath and pause, and you run out of air as you're getting to the end of the sentence, you just sound panicky and feel panicky as well. So yeah, that was joining things up. But I also, as you're talking, be your authentic self. But I spend a lot of time looking at how, especially leaders, say things and behave in front of other people. And if I may, just a quick story.
Yes, love your stories.
So a lovely lady in a brand new but very senior position for her in a company gave me a call and said, Andy, I want to say thank you for all of the data, the information you send on a Friday, because on a Monday, the management team gets together and we have such a laugh at all of the rubbish that our employees are putting in there, trying employee suggestions. And, she was genuinely pleased that they had something entertaining to talk about on a Monday, right? But you already know, right? It's like, what's the impact on other people of you laughing at their input, right? When you think about the team that you have around about you, to belong to Fiona's new team, you need to find the things to laugh at, because that's what you do. And then that behavior socially cascades down through the organization, right? So power is up here and you can't get through it. So there's a happy ending to the story. We switched round and gave Fiona some authentic questions to ask of our organization that sent people out to find out who's got something to say. Let's hear what it is you have to say. And they won awards and stuff like that by reconnecting socially, being authentic with each other and being genuinely, how can I help? What do you know? Move power closer to knowledge, if you like. But anyway, I don't know if that helps, but
yes, it does.
It's the story that was in my head.
It's great to have your company insights too, because yes, I'm always keen to learn more about company cultures, and me and Eddie and I are both company bound, and so we love to have stories about companies. Yes, great. Eddie, what's your reaction to all this?
Oh, I was waiting for everybody else to speak. Speech. Yeah, just going through the slides and thinking about the effect of speech. And like you said, it begins even before we actually voice it out. And then working out the hummingbird practice. For me, speech, I only recently, so within the last 10 years, started to understand how speech affected my health, in terms of I felt restricted from a very young age, and I don't know where it came from.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel restricted. And as I started learning about my body and learning about different things, finding out that that is kind of related to the thyroid part of your body. I don't know how it all works, but as I started to work on my chakras and get aligned with who I am able to like have my speech, and I'm learning through like lodestone to be able to have that intention before speech, not just speak, but like you said, some people have, I think some people call it the verbal diarrhea.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I should explain that lodestone is the product that I use to help people balance their body, spirit, and mind. It's a 30-day program, and Abby's done a lot of work on embodiment in the last year or so. And yeah, you've noticed so much, haven't you, about the changes in many aspects of your life.
Yeah, and the I think the thing we don't realize about speech and the words that we say, and I don't know if you separated speech from words, and that's what I'm trying to like get in my head, you know. The vibration once it comes out, so before it comes out as words, so it's there in your thoughts, and then you have to take your breath out before you
Yes,
exhale. Exhale, yeah, and mind the words. And like I was saying to you, I think it was yesterday, I was saying to you, funny enough, one of my cousins who's very religious, she sends me a voice message every day from different scriptures, and she was talking about words and the power of words, the power of speech, what we say, and once it comes out, you know, because then it has the vibrations, it kind of affects each of us just because we're all connected. So I'm really happy to hear what everybody has to say about speech, because I think it's very important. We don't realize the effects of what we say has, not just on our souls and our bodies and our spirit, but also on our communities and the collective.
Yeah, great. And that's so true. The fact is that I don't know how many of you or how many of our audience, LinkedIn and YouTube, have said something that they regretted bitterly. Maybe we've all done it. And, you know, that shows that we've lost our state control, as it's called. And so, yeah, if we are really embodying life, if we're living life properly and fully, then we can always be in control of our state. And it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing. It's a big topic, this, but you know, I'll touch on it. We are creatures of the earth. We come from the earth, as far as I'm concerned. You may have other ideas about being aliens or something, but I'm convinced I'm from the earth. And for me, the earth is all about incredible chaos. As we know, nature is very chaotic, but there is some kind of order that makes it all work. We're part of that. And we can be so chaotic, but we can also, if we are working with body, spirit, and mind, if we're really embodied, really regulated nervous system, then we can have this wonderful calm state no matter what, which for me is heaven. And I really don't like losing state control, so I don't. So I feel like a hummingbird, I do, and I feel as if I don't want to disturb people, really. I want to just, you know, meet them and talk and enjoy and respect. So yeah, I think we can be aroused by so many things, by anger, by envy, by all of these very negative emotions, which we seem to kind of store up inside. Some people store them up inside, and then they have to be freed, they have to get out. And of course, that disturbs everything, when people start shouting and screaming and so, yeah, we can control our state. Steve, I think you're dying to say something. I can tell.
Well, I'm going to take a breath before I speak.
Obviously. Oh, please, yes, please.
And actually, I mean, as you say, there's a lot of chaos in the world. There's a lot of destruction in the world. A lot of things in the media are catching people's attentions and getting them out of balance. Mm-hmm. And another use for breath, then, before speaking, is to bring ourselves back into our body, as you would say, but certainly calm our minds down, get some distance from the judgments and all the thoughts we have, what's going on around us. Mm-hmm. And it's a great way of accessing that great inner stillness that is our natural state. So for me, rather than just being breath down the sequence you showed, breath can be a really good part to actually just help us become present, help us access what's true for us in the moment. So I don't know what I'm going to say in the moment. This is just coming out. It's not a prepared speech.
Good.
I think all of us are coming from that place when we're speaking. Yeah. Sometimes we regale stories that are really valuable for people to hear. But the real power is when we're speaking our truth in the moment. So for me, breath is a way of getting present and speaking from our truth, which gives us presence, because people feel that. Mm. And then when we're in that state of just being really in the moment, we're not being reactive to what's going on around us. So we can then able to respond rather than react, and respond with some life. So we're not just influencing by the words, we're influencing by our being, our state of mind. Are we just really present? So we emanate that energetic field. So breath is so much more powerful, but when we're able to be in that clearer state, then rather than reacting, we're able to be more in an observer mode. We notice it, but just notice it, we can then just respond from a clearer place, not reactive. And that gives us that response ability that you're referring to. So it's the breath, just being present to our breathing, just being present gets us present. More we can have that as a way of being, then it enables us to be far more resourced and respond effectively, respond truthfully from our core of what's real for us, rather than just telling a story.
Yes.
We start telling, there's a difference between telling a story that's really powerful and is really helpful, but then also be able to come back and just be really real with people. And that's where we're able to draw people back to that source of themselves in the midst of all the chaos, in the midst of all the distractions, and find that presence and peace within ourselves again.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, I totally am with you there. It's the simplest thing. And I don't know if you remember when you were a child and maybe you were throwing a tantrum. When I was a child, I did throw tantrums. And so the first thing my parents would say would be to grab me and say, "Now take a breath." Getting me to really calm down by taking a breath. So I learned quite early on that, I could really change things by pausing and taking a breath. And so later on, I got very much excited by the power of breath. And that's mainly what I work with now. I first of all activate people's breath, And yeah, it's amazing that most people, we breathe between 20 and 24,000 times every 24 hours. That's the fact. And so that breath is going on unconditionally, unless you've got some kind of disease or you had an accident or something. It's unconditional. It's going on. You don't even notice it. You can even sleep for 8 hours and not have to worry about breathing for the most part. And yet we rarely consciously breathe. So I find with my work and with Lodestone that it's the first thing, because for me the breath and noticing, as Steve said, noticing the breath, observing the breath, is what reality really is. It really is now and here. There's nothing else. The rest is just, intellectual fluff in a way. We use the past and future as markers and so on, but the real human reality is right now, right here. And most people have lost touch with that altogether. And once you bring them down into their central core and get them to become mindful, focused, they start to sigh. The first thing you see is the chest rising, and then the diaphragm starts to work, and then they start to let their shoulders go. And it's clearly heaven to be breathing consciously. But we don't do it mostly. And I think this really fuels lots of fires, because we're breathing so shallowly that we are not centered, we are not grounded, because everything's happening up here, in the clavicle area and so on. And so then we get really hot-headed and start to say things we regret, start to disturb our environment and so on. So I think breath definitely for me is bringing us here and now. And really, it's a fantastic anchor. So when I work with people and mindfulness, they say to me quite often, you said I had to be anchored in my breath. Wow, they say, I've never felt so secure in my life. Because suddenly this word anchorage means something. And it means that this is where it all happens, back here. And we can navigate the intellectual visual world from back here. So we can have both. But it's the breath that really is the trigger to get people focused and grounded. Yeah. Andy, what about you? Any experiences with breath? Any stories with breath?
Oh, loads.
Loads.
No, but I think reflecting as you're talking, right? And, all of you have very calming voices, but breath as well, like you say, don't react, as Steve was saying, take a breath, just slowly breathe in, slowly breathe out. But because it changes your brain chemistry, it changes your heart rate, it changes, all of those things that are going around. And if your head is full of adrenaline and cortisol, norepinephrine, or whatever those big words are that I can't tell what's going on, right? You can't do anything other than defend and react. You lose the ability for cognitive thought. So breathing, get your oxygen levels up, get your heart rate down, get your thinking brain back into place, puts you in a bit more happy space, a bit more dopamine, serotonin, whatever it is that goes on in your head when you feel happy, calm, and a bit able to think. So you can't detach breathing from oxygen, from body chemistry, from your ability to think things through, really. So yeah, that was what I was reflecting on as you were talking, and slowly sighing and letting my shoulders relax a bit, as well as you say. I think Ebby's sharpening some pencils or something in the background.
I think Ebby's sharpening her pencils. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I don't know what she's doing. She'll be back.
It sound like breathing.
When her pencil... No, it didn't. She'll be back when her pencil's sharp.
There you go.
One of the great things about just being really present, being aware of our breathing, and just it gives us greater ease. And I'm thinking of a leader I know that he always has a positive take. He always comes across like he's in control, rather than just being in the present because we talk. And it's like he has this suit of armor on him, and as a result, it's really hard to get to know him. It's really hard. He's projected a really positive, strong image. Always has an answer. Lots of experience are drawn, but it's like, do I really know who he is? No, can't really get through. He always has an answer. He always looks like he knows what he's doing and what's happening, but there's no realism there. There's no authenticity there. For me, that's the antithesis of what we're talking about. How do we be naturally at our best and in the flow, rather than in this controlled persona? And especially in the world we're moving forward in, where there's so much uncertainty, that doesn't give any confidence, because he must be relying on what's done in the past. I mean, maybe he's always had the answer, but right now, many people don't have the answer, because we're in totally new scenarios and situations and solutions needed. So it's just quite a contrast to the kind of experience and the way of being with people, where we're just in the moment and being able to be responsive and reactive and engage with what's happening here, and open to finding solutions that haven't been found yet. So it's a way of being far more receptive to inner wisdom coming through to find solutions right now that we can't do when we're busy-minded or guarded-minded. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I agree. And I think certainly English speakers, because I'm an English specialist, so that's what I've been doing most of my life, teaching applied linguistics through the English channel. And English speakers have to react. They can't stand silence. It's a well-known fact that they can't really tolerate silence of more than 2 or 3 seconds, and so they come in with all these platitudes and all these things which don't mean so much, just to fill up the silence, because it's too awkward in the English socialization process to have all this silence. But when you come to the East, I mean, Steve, you must find this in Laos. If you come over to the Far East and the East in general, then silence is, you sit on a train and there's complete silence in Japan, complete silence. Even if it's really busy, people are not talking. They're certainly not talking on their phones, which is considered incredibly bad manners here. And they're just silent. And it's so nice. It's so relaxing, because there's not all this incredible noise. And I remember after I'd been in Japan for about 2 years, I went back to UK, had to go back, and got on a train from London to Manchester, and I had to put my earplugs in. I couldn't hear myself think. It was so noisy. People were speaking so loudly to each other on their phones. So in general, I think the East is so much quieter in many ways, although I always say Japanese people seem to be the quietest in the world, but get them into a bar or something, and they're incredibly noisy. So when they're relaxing, they're very noisy. But mostly in public, they're so quiet and well-behaved and calm. So it makes things like commuting, which we do a lot of in Japan, really so stress-free, because there's no noise going on. It's nice. Andy, what about you? And you work with leaders and so on, and you must notice how they use speech, and it must really fall into many different categories, I guess. How they speak to their teams, how they speak to their close sub-managers or whatever. What do you notice that's going on in companies at the moment?
Yeah, it's kind of power dynamics that I'm looking for, because you know, regardless of what we think, we do need leaders. You know, if somebody in the hotel, in the big conference room that I was in, somebody collapsed. Right, they're okay, but they hadn't eaten properly. They hadn't looked after them. They were dehydrated. They were in a different time zone. They were sitting in a conference. They didn't want to get up and go and get some water, and their body said, "I've had enough. I'm switching off. Time to lie down." Right, so they're okay. But what was really interesting is we've got a room full of leaders, but when something went wrong, everybody was looking around for somebody to take charge and lead us in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Then when somebody started to take charge, other people sort of started to find a role where there was a gap, you know, clear the area. I went outside with somebody and we waved down the paramedics to come in and stuff like that. So, you know, people were trying to find a role. But to back it up, I've heard so many people with power and authority stand up and say, "Trust me." And then they say some words after that and they've lost all their authenticity. They've lost everything, right? Because trust is not an instruction. And I've done a lot of work with words, trying to figure things out. And what I talked about last week with people were values more as verbs, not the words on the wall. And actually, when you really think about it, values as gifts. So I've watched leaders who give respect, and it feels like a gift. I've watched leaders, you know, give belonging. Oh, that's exactly what we need. Thank you so much for that. And the well-being that, you know, you can see how people are like, "Oh, this is great. I like this sort of stuff," rather than people that say, "Trust me, this is going to happen." Right? I just feel fear.
Yeah.
And I'm so uncomfortable with that. And if you're uncomfortable, creativity and innovation and all those wonderful things that come from being relaxed about life, it just doesn't come. Right? I don't know if it answers your questions, but it's always like the words, the phrasing, the eye contact, the body language, that, you know, all of those things we read as people as, "Yeah, I believe you, so I'm going to do this," or, "Yeah, I don't believe you, so I'm not going to do that."
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of our big topics when we do embodiment Q&A on a Friday. Maybe Sheila and I, we're constantly referring to the signals that people are constantly sending. So the body is signaling at so many levels all the time, you know, chemical level, endocrine level, all of these different levels, sending these signals and reading signals of the people they're with. And in a way, you know, we make so many decisions and often judgments, which is not such a good thing, simply before people speak, before people say a word. We kind of like that person, or we perhaps don't like that person, and then we can't be evenly, we can't communicate evenly with people. And that's another thing that I think is important, because, you know, we should be able to speak to our nearest and dearest with tenderness, and to speak to people we don't know with tenderness too, because we're very tender beings, human beings. It's so good. But, you know, we put on masks and then we raise the tone of our voice or the volume of our voice for this particular role or that particular task or whatever. And if we could be more consistently authentic, then we can talk to everybody in the same way. In fact, it would drive me mad if I had to adjust to speak to one set of people and then adjust again to speak to another. It would drive me absolutely mad. When I was teaching, my students would say to me, why are you so nice to us? Basically, because other professors were horrible to them. You know, Japanese professors are especially very dominant and very aggressive, and you know, there's a very hard line in the education world in Japan, and at university, you know, the professors can be so strict and so rude too. So my students were dead confused when I started working with them, because I was always nice to them. And, you know, that's another example, I think, of how we think we should adjust our speech and our voices and so on, depending on who we're talking to.
Can I give you one?
You brought up about being rude, and I kind of think, you see, like what Stephen Covey says in his book for 7 Habits of Professional People. First, try to understand, because and this is where I think is where we have confusion with different cultures, in that. And somebody was explaining to me about language. Sometimes because of the beat of the language, it might sound aggressive to you, but it's not aggressive to them. Yeah. And I remember when my children were growing up, because obviously I was brought up in Africa. So when you hear Nigerians speaking, you might think they're quarreling because of the beat of the language. And even when I was working in HR, I had people from Eastern Europe. And when the English hear her speaking, they think she's being rude, because and somebody was explaining to me, it's the language. So they come across as being rude, but they're actually not rude. So what might be strange to them is that that's a different culture they're seeing. So they're thinking, why she's talking like that, and then maybe they're trying to understand it. So it is very difficult with language, and and that's why I'm a people watcher. I love watching people. Yeah. I love watching different cultures and trying to understand. Like, I see people talking and trying to understand what's going on.
Me too.
So I think awareness is such an important thing. So awareness of other people and awareness of ourselves too, because like, as you know, with NLP, so if you think somebody is being rude, the automatic reaction is that you might be rude back without realizing that you're being rude. So you think they're being aggressive, so you attack back, but you don't know you're attacking back, and that person sees you attacking because, again, they don't understand you, and then they attack back, and then before you know what's going on, there's a confrontation. So like we always say, it always begins with us. And I think if we're more sensitive to what's going on inside, the embodiment, what's going on with us, and trying to understand the other person, which is difficult, because if nobody's telling you, because we haven't been taught these things, we kind of grow up, okay, you've grown up maybe in Manchester, I don't know, and the culture in Manchester is probably even different from the culture in London, and so there's the misinterpretation because we don't understand each other's backgrounds and paradigms.
Yes, I mean, yes. And Andy, I know you want to speak. Just 1 second, I'll just respond to this. Yes, there's a big problem in Japan with this, because Japanese is very formulaic, you know, so there are lots of set phrases, but also it's very instructional. So instead of saying, would you mind passing me that plate? You know, they'll say, pass plate. And so it's minimal. It's very, very, osara kashite. It's very minimal. In English, we will mitigate it because we're trying to get someone to do something for us. So we use mitigation, and we have many more words to make this come across in a good way. So yeah, very, very much a problem with Japanese speakers of English, and many Asian speakers of English too, because they don't they're not able to generate as many words as we can because they're not native speakers. And so they tend to speak very pragmatically all the time. And it can be really irritating. And I've had lots of challenges with this while I've been in Japan. Andy, over to you. I hope you've not forgotten your point.
No, not at all. And great conversation. And again, you just spark memories in my mind. I lived in Morocco for quite some years. And when I just went out there going in to break up a fight, it wasn't a fight at all. It's Arabic can sound quite a harsh language, right? It was just people talking excitedly about going out at the weekend, right? Voices were raised and hands were going on. So yeah, you don't understand. You don't understand. Just listen, I can hear things. But no, I think you talk about authenticity, and again, I'm a corporate person, but I've spent a lot of time, like I say, looking at the big things that have gone wrong in the world. If you think about the big disasters, that it's failures of social systems that have caused the issue. And I ran a workshop looking at these things the other week there, and Boeing is one of the things that we talked about. Things went wrong in Boeing, but Boeing identified as being an excellent engineering company, and people identified with being that. So you chose your career to go along and be part of that identity. And then leadership changed to make it a finance company. And leadership put a question into the organization. It's like Inception, the movie. How does that increase shareholder value? And switched people's identity. When they were saying, I think we've got an engineering challenge, they were trying to turn it into, well, how does that increase shareholder value? So that voice, that authentic, that, the power that and I'm back to words. I don't know if this is what you want to hear or not, but just, I was just reflecting on what you were saying about being your authentic self. It's really hard to be there when somebody just turned the tables on you. And, forever it's like, I've been me here, I belong here. And all of a sudden I have to be very far away from who I am to fit in. And if I don't fit in, I'm going to be kicked out by the tribe and I can't survive by myself. So it's amazing for me, the words that people use that impact your very identity and the way that life has been for you, and the adaptation that you have to create. It makes you sick. It makes you sick. I want to be me. I can't be me anymore.
Yeah, that must be really hard, I think. I haven't worked in corporate at all, but certainly in university systems, we have a bit of license because we are kind of academics and published and all of that. But basically, the university administration are so fixed, and especially so in Japan, they run the whole show. And so it's really hard to get them to understand what's happening at the front line. The teachers are with the students, and we've got to sort out the problems that arise. But the administration really stand back from that, and they use really irritating language. They have all these official terms, which they hide behind, and they throw those at you as some kind of justification for ignoring you. I know exactly what you mean about that. And doesn't it show that we over-identify very often with words? They're like commodities. I mean, I think some people use them as if they're a commodity. They're really their possession, and so we're grappling with all this, trying to understand, like the trust me thing. That's the most off-putting thing anyone could ever say, isn't it? So we're grappling with that, and we can't get beyond it. We can't see who this person is because they've really taken that phrase, and no doubt it's their signature phrase, and they use it as a kind of barrier in a way. Yeah. Ebishila, you were HR for a while, weren't you? And well, for quite a long time. And so in HR, do you find that people were using language which irritated, or I know there's a lot of language you use that I've never heard before. Things like tick boxing, no, box ticking, ticking boxes, yeah. And those kind of phrases, are very, I think, very HR.
So yeah, that's the mask, isn't it? So you're doing things because you're trying to avoid something. So in terms of HR, trying to get the companies in terms of litigation. So you're ticking the boxes rather than being yourself, or rather than creating a culture where people are themselves, so that they have that trust in themselves and therefore have the trust in their managers to be able to have open conversations. But because people are scared of litigation, they end up, even though the words coming out are be yourself, trust me. Those are the words coming out. But what is being received is, oh, I don't really trust, people don't care for me. They're just doing it because they're trying to avoid this, or they're trying to get me out, or they're trying to go through some sort of procedure so they don't get fined a lot of money, So there's a lack of trust, and it's a cultural thing that we're beginning to find that, like with burnout, it's all coming from the top. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and she was talking about her own burnout, and I've spoken to a lot of people coming with their own burnout, and actually even my daughter was talking. I thought, oh, these are just, you're talking about symptoms of burnout. I can just hear it in your voice. But it's like when the person at the top, or the people at the top, are not buying into the culture of no blame. So there's the blame culture. People are scared of losing their jobs because of behavior or how they're performing. So they're not free to talk about things. And with time, as we know, they end up with burnout. So they end up losing their best people. And I think with AI, people feel that the company is going to have AI to replace them, but it's not true. It's not going to be able to replace them. It can replace some things, but it's not going to be able to replace everything. And so your people are your best, and I think most important people, because before you realize it, those people who are creative are checking out. So they might still be there, but they're checking out, so they're not as efficient. So your bottom line is actually going to suffer in the end. So I think changing that culture and understanding speech and words is just so important that we all need to start talking about more.
Yeah. Steve, what about you? What's your experience with language and leaders and so on? I know you've worked in some big companies, haven't you?
Yeah, I think, I'm just been listening to the conversation go around here, and you've got 4 people that certainly we've all come from at least 3 countries, if not 4 countries. We've all lived abroad. I think that brings in a greater sensitivity to needing to really understand what other people are saying and how to communicate in a way that works wherever we are locally. But it's easy to forget, even when we're in the same countries. If someone's from Yorkshire, as I used to be, and talk to someone from Lancashire or from down south or in Scotland, everyone has a different language and a different way of living and a way of communicating. And so the more that we can not be reactive and really listen and find a way to bridge those gaps, it's really vital, and it's priceless. It makes big differences in businesses, because there's so much communication that's just going like this without really understanding. So the more that we can be able to be in the moment, just listening to really listen to what's been said, rather than my dialogue and my commentary and my judgments and everything else, then the greater ease it is to be able to have a fruitful conversation rather than just waiting to get in or checking out.
Presence.
That's just what.
Present.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's so true. That you go to meetings and you can see that somebody's sitting there rehearsing their point, and they're going over it, and they don't want to lose it, so they don't hear anything that's going on in the meeting at all, and then it blurts out and it disrupts everything. So yeah, I think that, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think so many people are on transmit rather than on receive, and there's no two-way street there at all. They're just transmitting, and so I think that creates a big problem. And I think, Steve, yes, I really resonate with that we each have our own idiolect. They're called idiolects. So every single 8 billion people have very distinct, unique idiolect. And it's regardless of location and birth and all of that, even within, an accent range, there are many, many idiolects.
Sorry, what's an idiolect? What's the definition? I've never heard that word before.
Oh, really? It's a very linguistic term. An idiolect is a way of speaking which is unique to that person. So nobody else can speak in exactly the same way. So it might be they've got a lisp, they may have all sorts of accentuation they use that nobody else uses. And that all comes from their experience of life and all from their parental upbringing and so on. They absorb all those things. But at the end of the day, like our fingerprints are unique, then our ways of speaking are totally unique. So you're so right that the more we can stand back and just really listen and attend, then the more we can learn that idiolect, and we can learn what it needs and how it needs supporting and that kind of thing.
So all idiolecturals or intellectuals or something. I can't even get it out.
Idiolectual, yes, idiolectual. That's the adjective. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's
at least we learned something tonight. I don't know about anybody else listening, but hope people learned something tonight as well.
Well, it's a very technical term, and probably only linguistics people would know it. But it does point up the fact that we're unique, and there's no way around that. We may sound like someone else because we come from the same area and we've got the same kind of accent, but in fact, the words we choose and the way we pronounce them, our speech pace, the way we cadence at the end of sentences, unique. You can't find any patterns that are the same in the world. And a lot of research has been done on this. It's fascinating, really, fascinating area. So, yeah, I mean, if we know that, maybe it is a bit technical, but if we can take that into consideration when we next go to a meeting or, meet somebody new or something, that it takes time to really process their idiolect, even though they may be speaking the same language as we are. And then, of course, you add to that accents and, people performing English with a foreign accent. So there's so much going on linguistically. But maybe this is a good point to end on, because we're really running out of time now, I'm afraid. But the thing is that if we are truly embodied, yes, we can be patient. We can wait to really listen to them and attend to them. And we can learn to be patient with ourselves too, because I think there's a lot of self-deprecation often in people's ways of speaking. Tonight I was going to talk a little bit about non-violent communication. I think I told Steve that, but in fact we didn't get round to it, and I have no idea time had run on so quickly, so I'll have to save that for another time. But yes, non-violent communication is a great topic, because it's amazing how violently we can talk to ourselves. You know, we've all done it. You know, you make a mistake, you say, you know, you say something very deprecating to yourself, blame yourself. So self-compassion is a really strong element in non-violent communication. And in fact, Gandhi, you remember Gandhi with his fasting and so on, he started the whole non-violent movement, and it's now quite a strong movement to stop violence creeping into our speech. But we have to talk about that another time. Fascinating. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been great. And we always manage to have a super conversation from lots of different perspectives and unique experience of life. I love it. I just love it. And I think we are all hummingbirds, because we just like hovering together and getting a bit of nectar and just enjoying exchanging. So I love that. Thank you so much. So thanks for joining us, and hope you'll come back for more. Next week, we're going to talk about, just a moment, I can tell you, the topic is, we're going to talk about perimenopause next week. And don't think, guys, that this excludes you. Oh no, it doesn't. Because, you know, women in their perimenopausal state live with men. And no doubt you've got experience of this. And so, no, you don't get to duck out on this one. Actually, it's quite fascinating, actually, because
I'm just trying to figure out how you link non-violent.
Yeah, well, I'll show you that next week. So you've got to come now.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we can see one of the problems with the menopause is that people have these tirades of anger and you know, these swings of temperament, and say all sorts of things they regret. So of course it's really important that the men in their lives know how to deal with that, and you know how to negotiate those rocky roads. So yeah, you got to come back next week, and I will weave in non-violent communication, definitely.
Tune in next week, absolutely.
Yeah, you've got to be here.
Till next week.
Super. Thanks so much, and I'll be in touch. Lovely to have you. See you. Bye-bye. Bye. That was good fun. Great. Oh, so lovely to have this chance to just relax and talk. Nobody's trying to win points. Nobody's trying to, you know, outdo anybody else. It's just so lovely and relaxing. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for joining us. I'll just check to see if we've got any comments. No comments today, but please, if you're out there, LinkedIn and YouTube members, you can comment and we will see those comments. So please, if you have questions or comments on what we're saying, please type them into the comment box and we'll address them during the session. And if you would like to come and join us in the studio, you can apply to come and join us. The topics are largely set for the 13 weeks. You can get the startup guide, which will give you the detail of that. And you can apply, please. The more the merrier. We can take 10 people. So, you know, if you'd like to come and join us, we'd be delighted. So please check out the details below the window. And I'll also leave details of Lodestone, which is the digital product that I created last year. And it really works on reconnecting people with their true nature, which is what we're talking about quite often during today, so that they can be authentic, so that they can be present, so that they don't have to wear masks. They can be truly themselves and be utterly enough, more than enough, exactly as they are. So yes, this program, 30-day program, can deal with ADHD symptoms, autistic symptoms. We've seen people work to reconnect with the calmer side of themselves, and they go on in leaps and bounds. So check out Lodestone if you'd like to know more about that. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place, for Your Body is Your Business Plan. And by the way, it's the name of a book I wrote, and you can get that book on Amazon. I'll leave the details below the window. And it's all about the kind of things we've been talking about today. So if you'd like to know more, please get the book. That would be great. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. Have a great week, and be careful what you say. Bye for now.